It's a numbers game. It's a numbers game back and forth. And Kamala and her team, they got to be a little worried. They got to be panicking just a little bit, just a tiny wee little bit. Because the thing is, folks, it is very clear that this is going to be a toe-to-toe slug match between Trump and Kamala. Their numbers, again, are very close to each other. And the way I see this playing out, especially for this election cycle, is that Trump could have a good significant lead, and that perhaps corporate media is slowly preparing its viewers, CNN, MSNBC, the inevitable, possibly eventual Kamala Harris defeat. Now, liberals, I don't say this was joy in the campaign, but I do say this as, look, Heartland's Media gave you guys this warning. We said that if you don't get your act together after 2020, this could all blow up in your face and Trump was going to run again. And I remember all the attacks me and Daniel got, all the smears, everybody pretending to be an armchair general. And now look what happened. Trump ran again. He won his primary. Biden was an absolute disaster. Then they put in Kamala. She's a disaster. Everything's falling apart. So does it come as a surprise that the numbers aren't looking too good for Kamala and that Trump could very well succeed? Now, again, folks, what's going to matter is voter turnout. Who's going to show up to vote? So I'll play this video here from CNN. You could smell the fear. I could smell your fear.
I think there are a lot of folks, such as myself, who think that Donald Trump's unpopularity is baked in. But here's the deal. If you believe that Donald Trump has somehow become less popular over time, let me change your mind about that. In fact, he is more popular at this point in the campaign than he was at this point in the 2020 campaign or the 2016 campaign. Look, he's still underwater, right, with a negative 9-point net favorability rating. But that is higher than he was in 2020 at minus 12 points when he nearly won. And it is way higher than the minus 27 net favorability back in 2016 when he did win. So I think there's this real question in Kamala Harris's mind, in the campaign's mind, why is Trump more popular now than he was at this point in 2020 and 2016? And I think that is why you're seeing the sharpening attacks, because they want to put him back down to here, or even there's no way that they're necessarily going to back down to here, but they want to make Trump more unpopular than he is right now, because he's more popular now than either point in 2020 or 2016.
So this could be what they're seeing with regard to movement with Donald Trump, but could it have something also to do with what they're seeing with their candidate with Kamala Harris or something?
Yeah, look, Kamala Harris is more popular than Donald Trump. But Kamala.
Oh. Are you sure about that? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Democrats, but that smells like a lie, and you know how I feel about lies.
All lies will be exposed.
Absolutely.
Harris had her popularity rising once, of course, she became the presumptive Democrat nominee. Look, she was at minus 15 points back on July 17th, then minus 4 points on August 17th. Then 1 point on September, plus 1 point. She was actually in positive territory a month ago, but she has fallen back down to -1.
Yes, because the more she talks, the more people realize that she sucks. No pun intended. Get your minds out the gutter. But I mean, really, look. It almost it seems as if something was manufactured after July because, there was a lot of stuff going on between, July, August, September. But you got to be a special kind of moron to go from +1 to a negative. It's almost as if those numbers keep on going lower and lower and lower and lower and lower.
The momentum of Kamala Harris has stalled. And I think they feel like they have to change something that's going on in their campaign because they were seeing a rise and now it is stalled out. Look, she's still more popular than Trump. But look, Joe Biden was more popular than Trump, much more, and barely won. And Hillary Clinton was more popular than Donald Trump and lost. Being more popular than Trump isn't enough. She wants to continue to see her favorabilities rise, but in fact, they're going in the wrong direction at this point.
One of the lines of attack that we've seen her focusing in on is questioning his fitness to serve, his ability to serve, and also questioning his health. Do you see the numbers that would show that's a good line of attack?
I think it's a great line of attack because better mental, physical health to be president. Back when Joe Biden was presumptive Democratic nominee in July, look, 50% said that Trump had the better physical mental health. Biden was way down at 21%. You jump ahead to September. Kamala Harris way ahead on this metric at 54% to Donald Trump's 34%. I expect to see a lot more attacks on Trump's mental and physical health because the bottom line is voters believe it, and you're just telling voters what they know and bringing it to the forefront in their minds.
Yeah, if you see it.
This is called hopium copium. These numbers, again, they're polling certain groups. All depends on how many people are excited to vote. How many people are going to turn out to vote? Now, Kamala and the Democrats, as I covered in the previous segment, are losing voters, losing support. And this is CNN's way to try and clean things up. But hold on tight. The Democrats are still projecting, though, here, folks. Democrats are still in a full-blown panic.
I rarely beg the audience for anything.
Oh, please vote. Say that again. You rarely beg the audience? Go ahead. Beg harder. Please beg harder.
I rarely beg the audience for anything. I beg of you, don't read anything into any of these trends. Please, every 4 years we do the same gosh darn thing. Look, here's the bottom line. An election day vote counts the same as an early in-person vote or a mail vote. We know from the polling and we know through history that Kamala Harris is very likely going to win that mail vote. We know the early in-person vote is going to be very, very close. A point in this poll, I can find a few polls, in fact, where Trump is ahead in that. But we know that Donald Trump is going to crush the election day vote. And it doesn't matter when the vote is cast. They all count the same. One vote counts for one vote, whether it's cast today or...
They can't do it. They can't do it. They can't do it. They can't keep it up because they're incapable of doing so. And by the way, folks, can you take a wild guess we're going to be talking about later tonight on the post-duopoly show? So if you don't got to get it, if you don't get it, go figure it out. Shout out to Do Dissidents. That's right. Triple threat, RBN, DD, HLM in the house. If you don't got it, you better go figure it out, like right now.
or whether it is cast on November 5th, John.
And that goes for people looking at this from both sides. There's nothing magical about an election day vote versus a vote that's mailed in early. There are trends,
There's nothing magical about it. It's magical and mystical and so irresistible.
though, that you can compare when you're talking about early voting, mail voting, in-person voting.
You can try. You could certainly try. But remember where we were 4 years ago? There was a pandemic. We were in the midst of the COVID pandemic. John and I couldn't stand next to each other 4 years ago.
I can't believe they destroyed our freedoms. They took away so much from us and put so many people in debt. Listen, this is going to be a reaction to that 4 years as well. No one should ever forget what happened during the pandemic and what they did to us. Never again. This must never, ever, ever happen again.
The bottom line is this. There's no discernible baseline in most of these states because in 2020, 69% of the vote was cast early, in person, or by mail. This year, we're looking at maybe about 52%. So how are you supposed to compare this year to 4 years ago? And more than that, you know, you might say, okay, all that record early in-person voting, right? But here's the deal. Even the components of that early vote are going to change because the mail vote is going to be way down. Here's a projection, 23% for this year compared to 43% 4 years ago. The early in-person vote could actually go up. That's what the NBC News...
There's a lot of hopium there. See, what they're thinking, what they're trying to say is, guys, don't worry. Enough liberals are going to turn out to vote. And yes, we're going to make enough progressives even feel bad too and get them all in for Kamala. You don't do this unless you realize something bad's going to happen and that the magic isn't as magical as it used to be. They're projecting now, again, anything can happen. Voter turnout's key. But Democrats, liberals, I know it. I could smell the fear. I smell fear. I smell blood in the water. You guys are panicking that the great Kamala is going to be nothing more than a whale carcass.
News poll is suggesting 29% versus 26% 4 years ago, but the overall complexion and the overall number of folks who are going to cast a ballot before Election Day is going to go way down. But the way they're going to do it is very likely going to change. It just makes it impossible. I don't know how anyone could compare this to anything, to be honest. Maybe they know something better than I do, John.
The important thing to say,
Yes, people do know better. They're not a suck up or a loser who works at CNN, a corporate media outlet that's hemorrhaging views. By the way, folks, just to put a little smile on your face, I'll probably be retweeting or sharing that story again, how all these corporate media pundits, the talent, the journalists aren't getting a pay raise like they used to. It's almost as if people aren't tuning in to watch corporate media. You know, pretty much soon, CNN, you're just going to be regulated being playing in prisons, which should be considered torture, playing at airports, which should be considered as torture, Or is it at playing in old folks' homes, which would be considered torture? Because CNN, nobody likes you, CNN. The only media network that had the audacity and was so big-headed to think that they could actually pull off a streaming service. CNN. CNN is that person who thinks that they're a 10 when really they're a negative 10. Okay? All those filters ain't going to help you out. You ain't no Instagram baddie.
If people are voting, and that's a good thing. But you have one final warning.
Yeah. A quote before Trump's 2016 win, comparing party registration trends from 2012. Some political scientists said early voting predicts who wins. This is good news for Democrats. I don't think Hillary Clinton won that election, John. Do you?
No, early voting, not a good predictor. If you run a campaign, I will say this. If you're running a campaign, you like early voting because it's,
you bank the vote.
Exactly. It's there. It's done. You can turn your focus to someone else, maybe a persuadable voter there. But in terms of predicting who's going to win, no, please.
Please, please. I'm begging you. Please, please.
Please, please. I'm begging. No, beg harder. Please. No, go ahead. Somebody clip this. Somebody clip this. This is what I love saying. Beg CNN. Beg harder.
It's there. It's done. You can turn your focus to someone else, maybe a persuadable voter there. But in terms of predicting who's going to win, no, please.
Please, please. I'm begging you. Please, please.
One more time. Beg harder.
Please. I'm begging you. Please.
Voter there. But in terms of predicting who's going to win, no, please.
Please, please. I'm begging you. Please, please.
Going to win? No, please.
Please, please. I'm begging you. Please, please.
One more time.
Begging you. Please, please. I'm
Beg
begging
harder.
you. Please, please.
No. I'm the king. And I say no. I say no. I say no to everything. Beg harder. And the purpose of going over this is going over the numbers. Look, it's easy for corporate media to theorize who's going to be turning out to vote, who's going to be showing up to vote. But at the end of the day, it's going to be up to individuals, regular people, whether they're choosing to do mail-in ballots, which unfortunately in Illinois, especially if you're voting for third party or independents, the bubble, the circle for third party candidates like libertarians or greens ain't there. And either that, if you want to vote for a third party candidate, it's going to have to be a write-in because the libertarians and greens have, due to Illinois state law, have been unable to really secure the ballot, but they can get in write-in. So that's great for their presidential candidates. Their other candidates, the bubble and circle's missing. So it's going to vary from state to state. But again, what will matter is how many people will turn out to vote. And you know something, what is shocking is the amount of desperation that corporate media is doing. They're slowly preparing liberals for their defeat, which is great in my book. Now, anything can happen on election night. As I said before, Kamala could win. She could, possibly. But there's going to be a glorious meltdown if the reverse happens. So keep begging, keep crying. And as time progresses on, maybe even CNN itself will one day be gone. And all I can say is I won't beg for it. I'll be thanking the Almighty above. And when I mean the Almighty, I'm talking about the God Emperor of mankind for a glorious defeat of corporate media, because it has to happen, folks. But that's how desperate corporate media is. They're trying to project. They're trying to deflect. They're trying to comfort people in for an eventual loss. It'll be tasty. Let us all feast upon liberal tears.